It's time for the new Netflix film, Afterlife of the Party. Hey, at least it's not another zombie show. A social butterfly dies during her birthday week, and to her surprise, she's given a second chance to right her wrongs on Earth by reconnecting with loved ones, and most importantly, prove that she's worthy enough to get into that big VIP room in the sky. Victoria Justice and Midori Francis star as Cassie and Lisa, respectively. Cassie is the party-planning socialite who happens to die after a night of partying for her birthday week. Lisa is her smart but shy friend who apparently needs some nudging in her life to get on the road to happiness. I didn't like the character of Cassie at the beginning, which is exactly how we're supposed to feel about her. We then go on the character progression along with Cassie as she learns to be a better person, even though she's not a person anymore. This has a familiar premise, and there are even portions of this that resemble the movie The Tooth Fairy with Dwayne Johnson. We have a character who has to learn something about themselves and to help those in their lives, with the main obstacle being those people can't see the character. Once Cassie dies, she is given a list of people she needs to help in order to move on in the afterlife and go to the above. She has sort of a guardian angel who instructs her on what she has to do and gives her tips on how to accomplish the goal. Cassie's journey then becomes a slight fish out of water scenario as she has to learn to navigate in a world that can't see or hear her, and yet she's expected to make some difference in their lives. The sequences brought some humor to the story. Some of it felt forced, but other times it did make me chuckle. And I like the dynamic between Lisa and Cassie. Their chemistry feels real because even though they're best friends, they're not always seeing eye to eye and getting along every single minute. There's tension and conflict within their relationship, even after Cassie is dead. And this ultimately does end up working for the story, causing some good emotion to come forward. Now, while this is mainly Cassie's story and her job to help those that were in her life, there is also a romantic comedy aspect to the story. Lisa has a crush on a neighbor, and they're both extremely shy, which then leads to some awkward and cute exchanges. The humor in these situations is mild. It's more lighthearted than funny, even though there were times the story felt like it was trying to go for laughs. As the movie goes along, it did begin to grow on me, and I was connecting more and more with the characters. I knew where the plot was headed, and it's very predictable in the story progression, but yet I was still enjoying the watch. Now, if you have any Google Home devices around while you watch this, there was a sequence that made me laugh and frustrated me at the same time. The characters are yelling at their Google device and giving it commands, and we have connected devices all over our house, and one happens to be right near the speakers by the TV. So as I'm watching this, my Google is blurting out all kinds of nonsense as it tries to execute the commands that the TV is telling it to. This is more of a warning, so you're prepared if you are watching this and you have a device nearby. It just may start going wonky. Now, the camera work in this is mixed. There are some really weird shot choices and the camera movements that feel jerky and unpolished. There are also a few sequences that look and feel like they came out of a straight-to-video movie, where it was filmed with a less than good lens. Other times, though, the look and feel is decent. It's not something that wowed me like some great cinematic masterpiece, but it also didn't look like it was the backup safety takes that were only to be used as a last resort. There's a special effect that is utilized to allow Cassie to move from one place to another, and it's very similar to Dumbledore and Harry desapparating, and I think the special effects didn't look too bad when it was utilized. I've got to admit that this began to have a good amount of heart to the story. It started off pretty rocky, but as it went along, I became emotionally invested in the narrative. This went from something that I was classifying as a very casual watch to a story that I was sucked into. Now, I still think that it is a casual watch, but it may grab hold of you too and draw you into the story. Now, the movie is slightly long at 1 hour and 49 minutes. I think there are a few portions where the pace drags as some of the story becomes a bit repetitive. But that being said, I didn't get bored with it. I may have rolled my eyes at portions, but I never became disinterested in what was going on. Overall, this is a decently fun story of personal growth. While the plot feels familiar and even portions of the story are unoriginal, the characters grew on me, creating a story that sucked me in and held my attention to the end. And while I wasn't sure about the film at the start, I ended up enjoying the watch and was surprised by the emotion it evoked. It's cheesy, even cringy at times, and very predictable, and yet I still teared up towards the end. There's no sex or nudity, maybe a little bit of profanity, and no violence. I give Afterlife of the Party 3.5 out of 5 couches. What are you planning on watching this weekend? Is there anything you've been really looking forward to checking out? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.